great. So I think that the first thing that we need to really understand is what our job is as we're either just getting started in real estate or building, or in this case, jump starting the business. So if you guys could go, we'll use the chat a lot, just so that way there's no need for people to like unmute and like awkward silence in between. But if you could go into the chat for me, I'll give you a second. What do you think is our job? Like if somebody asks you, hey, what do you do? You're a real estate agent. Okay, cool. So what do you actually do? Like what is your day-to-day job? How would you describe it? Go into the chat box for me. Give me a few giving more value to what they're looking for, helping first-time buyers find their home. Cool. Network. Silka, what's up? Good to see you. Mimi, I don't think I said what's up to you. What is going on? Lead gen. Okay, cool. What else? Do we have any other thing? Hey, what is your job? What do you do? Jen, I'm curious because you've been making a bunch of phone calls. I want to see your answer for sure. Angel, if you're there, I'd love to see your answer. Meeting new people, perfect. To prospect, Sergio said to provide professional insight to buyers and sellers. None of these are wrong answers. Like these are all correct answers. I think that the main focus when we think about what our job is, when I think about that, what I wrote down was at this stage of my real estate journey, I'd say it's prospecting for opportunities and nurturing relationships. And I think that's the mindset that we have to approach jumpstarting the business with. And I would say, I would suggest this to somebody that's even been in the business for like 3, 4, 5 years, but they haven't, gotten to the level of closings or escrows that they've wanted to in a month. Because this will take care of like all your problems. In the old sales company that I worked for, they would say something, I can't remember the exact way that they would phrase it, but they would say something like, um, oh, if you need more, like whatever, need more money, if you need this, need that, just make more phone calls. Like that was literally what the solution to all of our problems was, just to make more phone calls. Now, I wouldn't say that's the answer, the end all be all here, but it's prospecting for opportunities and nurturing relationships. Because I'm sure those of you that are making phone calls consistently can kind of relate to this. When you're making these phone calls, they're generally super quick conversations, like 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, maybe the random ones at 7 or 10 minutes, but you're not really getting a whole bunch of information from that person that you could use in the future. It's more just trying to start that relationship. So you're prospecting for the opportunity to then nurture the relationship. That's what your day-to-day job should be. So when you look at your calendar for this week, next month, the days that you're going to be working, you need to have both of those in your schedule. And I'm kind of that type of person that like if I see something in my schedule that I just don't want to do or I don't like doing, I'm not going to do it. So we have to find ways to fall in love with doing this stuff. And it's called mastering the mundane, is what I've heard it be called at different real estate conferences that I've been to, mastering the mundane. So in my schedule, when I have phone calls in there, it's not titled like phone call session. It's not titled making calls. It's called momentum hours, like me building momentum with like couple phone call emojis, momentum hours. Like another example is like the gym, right? I love going to the gym, but it's also like, oh man, I don't want to go to the gym. I call going to the gym big Coovee season. Like that's my gym time. So what is it for you that you could put into your schedule? Like, damn, I'm excited for my momentum hours. I'm excited for this. Because at the end of the day, it's our job, and it's my belief that it's our job when jumpstarting the business to prospect for opportunities and nurture their relationships. And I think the biggest key in all of this is being consistent with whatever form of prospecting that you do. When I first jumped into the Anderson group, Josh, Susie can probably relate to this or know this of me. When she first saw me join the team, I was like all over the place with my prospecting. And I was coming up to Josh like literally every day at the office asking, hey, what else could I do? What else could I do? What else could I do? Because I wasn't ever consistent in one area. I was doing random open houses here and there. I was doing door knocking randomly here and there. I was calling expires randomly and doing this and doing that. But I was never really focused in like the one area or the two areas of prospecting for long enough to be able to see results. So I'll tell you, if you are prospecting right now and you're not seeing the results that you want, keep going. Like, don't stop, keep going. Everybody says that you need like 60 or 90 days to start to build momentum in real estate. And I'm sure all of you have heard that. And wherever team you've been on, it's like, hey, 60 days, dedicate it. It's so true. And it actually takes less than 60 days. I am living proof of that. I left my job last July. and I kind of just went all in on real estate in like August of last year. And by November, I think that was my first month with 5 closings in November. And that was like literally 90 days from when I left my job. Right. So just dedicate the 90 days or the 60 days, however long you think you might need, but dedicate a significant amount of time to make sure you're able to jumpstart your business. Sergio said, oh, Jen, I don't know if I saw your answer. Help people find their next home, build generational wealth. I love that. Sergio said, prospecting is a big scope. How do we define prospecting? That's what I'll get into here in a second, Sergio. Great question. Prospecting is whatever you want it to be. One of my buddies that's on the Ed Kaminsky team, they sell like homes on the Strand, like 10, 15, $20 million homes. Like he's that type of guy. For him, prospecting isn't making phone calls. For him, prospecting isn't door knocking. For him, prospecting is going to the country club 3 times a week to play around a golf first thing in the morning. Literally, that's how he gets his business. It's insane. For other people, like the ones down in Newport Beach, it's like going to Mastro's Steakhouse and sitting at the bar for like a couple hours at night, maybe like a Thursday and a Friday, and just hanging out, meet people. So prospecting is whatever you want it to be. It doesn't just have to be phone calls. It doesn't just have to be door knocking. It can be whatever gets you excited to do it. And you don't even need to call it prospecting. You can call it momentum hours or whatever you want, relationship building or whatever. I also love meeting new people. So I love going to like on Meetup. If you guys have used that website before, they have like real estate meetups. They have like new in town meetups. They have like coffee and conversations, kind of like how Jeff does at random coffee shops. Use Meetup and find a couple groups that you could like vibe with and just show up to the meetups and see what they're about. That's a really great way to build relationships. Becky said when I first joined the team, the number that they promote, like by they, I mean just like team leaders in general, is have 5 real estate conversations a day. Have 5 real estate conversations a day. That should be like the baseline. And those real estate conversations could be anything. It doesn't have to be like, hey, do you want to buy or sell? It could be like, hey, what's up with the market? And it doesn't always need to end with, hey, do you want to buy or sell? It's just having those 5 real estate conversations. So prospecting can be whatever you want it to be. For me, it's calling. I enjoy calling. Sounds weird maybe, but I also, when I'm at home and I'm making calls, like I'll be making probably 200 calls today, I'm literally playing FIFA in the background until I get somebody on the phone. Then when I get somebody on the phone, I pause it and I have my script pulled up in front of me and I'm all in on that phone call. So it's whatever you want prospecting to be. For me, it's phone calls. And it's about the consistency of that prospecting source, not about doing it for like 3 weeks, not getting any results and stopping. Do it for that fourth, that fifth, that sixth week. I was telling Brittany and Jen yesterday at the office, because they have that calendar of getting to the office consistently of 66 days or whatever. Back in like the 70s, there was a psychologist or whatever who came out and said that it takes 21 days to build a habit. That was true back in like the mid 90s, the mid 1900s. That was true back then. In today's world, with the amount of distractions that we all have, like I'm sure all of your phones have pinged 10 times in the last 15 minutes with social media notifications, your Ring doorbell going off or whatever. Because of all the distractions that we have, it doesn't take 21 days to build a habit. It now takes like 60 something days is the last time they tracked it. It takes 60 something days to build a habit. So you can't do something for 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks and expect the results. You have to do it over the course of 60 something days, which is why everybody starts to say like it takes 60 to 90 days to build, momentum in something. But for me, it's the phone calls. When you look at the schedule, and for me, I'm a very like planned person. I have my schedule built out for, if I showed you my schedule now, I'd have it like I have events pre-planned in there literally until the end of time. Like I know every single day, Monday through Friday, I will be prospecting, just a matter of whenever I do it. In fact, I'll show you. I'm going to jump to a random week in May of 2024. And this is what my schedule looks like, May 13th through May 19th of 2024. It is just pre-baked in there. So every Sunday when I get to my master couve, you guys can see this here, my master couve session where I go over my schedule and my finances every single week on Sunday. I do the schedule for the next week. So like, let's say when I'm on May 12th, like let's say it's Sunday, May 12th, I'm sitting down to plan my week. And I know we have the team meeting at 11, we have the Zillow meeting at 1, 2. So my appointment time can't be from 1 to 3:30. So I just got to move that. And I'm going to be planning to do my appointments in this time slot here. Let's say on Wednesday the 15th, I know that I'm going to be getting coffee with one of my past clients. So I won't be getting to the office at 7 a.m. I'm going to get to the office probably a little bit later, maybe like 9 a.m. and my prospecting time, my momentum hours is going to be a little bit later, so I can book my coffee in here. So I have my schedule already built and just these recurring events that I come in and edit like the week before. So that way I don't have to spend like 3 hours making my schedule. Because that's the one reason for the longest period of time I never made a schedule was because I was just spending so much time putting in all of these events when it doesn't always have to be like that. Okay. It doesn't always have to be like that. So far this year, there have been 208 days this year. There have been 142 business days. And the question is like Monday through Friday, excluding holidays and weekends, have been 142 days. How many of those 142 days can you say that you did some form of prospecting? Whether it's literally going to a coffee shop and saying what's up to people, going to a networking event, making phone calls, door knocking, or whatever. How many of those 142 days can you say you made you did your prospecting for the day or whatever it was? That's Monday through Friday. Treat it like a business and it'll pay you like a business. Treat it like a hobby, it'll pay you like a hobby. How many of those 142 days did you spend doing some type of dollar business generating activity? For me, I've probably spent about 110 to 115 of those 142 business days doing some type of prospecting, right? Not including the days I was traveling or when I was sick and not really doing anything. And if you look at the numbers for this year, just phone calls alone, I've averaged over 100 phone calls a day on those like 110-ish days that I've been prospecting. Now, that's not just, I don't say that to impress you. I just say that to impress upon you the importance of putting it into your schedule and just committing to that one or that two, that one or the two activities that you can call prospecting. I'm sure all of you guys have something that you really love to do and you're really good at. Like Antoinette, I know you're into volleyball, right? What if there's like a women's volleyball league or something that like gets together at the local high school like Thursday nights for a couple hours? That's a really easy way just to do something you love and just be around cool people. But also eventually they're like, hey, Antoinette, what do you do? That's a form of prospecting. That's a really cool form of prospecting. And obviously, I don't know what everybody else does here, but you guys get the point. Like Felicia, I know you're into yoga. That's a cool, like yoga studios are cool places to just mingle and chat with people after classes, that kind of stuff. And you guys get the idea of the prospecting. So it's important to master the mundane, fall in love with the prospecting because it doesn't just have to be phone calls and door knocking. It could be if you like it, but it doesn't have to be just that. Now there are times where those things are important. Like I love what Josh is doing with the calling, the sessions that he's doing in the mornings at the office now, where he's just listed, just sold. Like those are sweet when you have listings and the opportunity to do that stuff. So I wouldn't say never do that if you don't do phone calls consistently. Like still add those in. But find something that you love to do and that can help you prospect and master the mundane and do that part of the business to help you jumpstart your business. Now, I'd say let's move on from prospecting. Does anybody have any questions about prospecting other than scripts? Cool. In fact, I think if you want to leave this Zoom call with like action steps, I think a really cool action step or a question to ask yourself is where are places you could go or events you could be at to do some form of prospecting? That's like a really cool journaling activity that you could spend 10, 15, 20 minutes on later today over a coffee or over lunch just to think about, hey, what do I do that I enjoy where I could potentially generate some opportunities, do the prospecting. Cool. And you guys have all heard that phrase, like eat the frog, do the hard things first in the day. If you really don't like prospecting, knock that out early. It's just like the reason people go to the gym super early in the morning so they can like get it out the way and they feel amazing afterwards kind of thing. All right. Now, I'm going to talk about like how I manage the opportunities and how I nurture the relationships. Super basic, but in my schedule, 2 times a week, Monday and Friday, I have a pipeline review, is what I call it, and it's already in my schedule. I'll show you my schedule for that week, random week in May of 2024. It's already in my schedule for Monday. You guys can probably see at the bottom of the screen. Pipeline review, pipeline review. Now I don't do it at 7:30 p.m. Like when I make my entire schedule, I see where I have like 30 to 40 minutes open and I move it throughout the day, right? I move it wherever I can do it during those days, but I make sure I do it at least twice a week, even if it's on like a Tuesday or a Thursday or a Wednesday and a Saturday. I always do it twice a week. And that's helped me do two things. That's number one, to help me take care of all of the tasks that I either forgot to do last week or didn't check off last week or just couldn't get a hold of people the week before. And I just re-edit those tasks in Follow Up Boss. The second thing it helps me do is go through the stages of people that I have and see who do I have that's cold that could become warm, and who do I have that's warm that could become hot, and who do I have that's a nurture that could become cold, warm, or hot, and how can I adjust my plan to those people specifically to get them in through the pipeline, through the process. I do that twice a week, every week, no questions asked. And even if I haven't done anything, like even if I have no way to move somebody from one to the other, I always go through it because you never know what you might find as you're just going through your leads. You might have find somebody that you're like, damn, I haven't spoken to that person in a couple weeks and they were awesome. Let me talk to them again. And it gives you an opportunity to reach out. That's the um, the pipeline review that I do twice a week. And if you don't know on Follow Up Boss, I'll now share my screen to show you Follow Up Boss. I love to use the filters on the right side here. So if you're on just the people section, you can go to filters and you can filter the people that you see on your screen by whatever you want to. When I do the pipeline reviews, I go to stage and I filter it by like hot, warm, and cold. So I go through the hot leads first. So I see all these people and I go through them. Like I know I just talked to her yesterday. I talked to them 2 weeks ago, or excuse me, 2 months ago. It says right here. Her I'm showing homes to in a couple weeks. So I have all of these people all lined up, and I know that I know how I can move them from either the previous stage to the next stage, or how I can affect them today. Like this guy is super, super specific about the types of home that he wants. So every time I do my pipeline review and I come across Alex's name, I always go on to Ylopo and I always send him either one or two new homes that he might like. So I'm always going to be present to him. And my next thing that I have written down is omnipresence. If you want to write that down, omnipresence. I'm a big like Grant Cardone fan. He's like a OG sales trainer kind of guy. Some people love him, some people hate him. There's really no in between. If you want to look him up, he has really amazing sales trainings, whether you like him or don't like him, just the content is great. His name is Grant Cardone. And he has this belief about being omnipresent, like being everywhere all of the time, being everywhere all of the time, omnipresence. So I'm sending people emails, I'm calling people, I'm texting people, I'm following people on social media when I know that they have social media, like I'm adding them as friends on Facebook, not so I can stalk them, but so that way they know that I am around. Because remember, I firmly believe this, and I say this so often. I firmly believe that we can do whatever the amount of phone calls we want to do is to a person. We can knock on their door 1.5 million times, but they're always going to work with the person who's just in the right place at the right time. They're always going to do that. That's my firm belief. So it's why I'm always trying to be omnipresent with them. You could call a seller 1.5 million times, but if somebody knocks on the door and they're just talking to their husband or their wife about selling, they're probably going to go with that person. For whatever reason, they're just going to go with that person. Okay, so be omnipresent. And when I have people like I have the guys that just closed on that duplex in Cerritos, they were a Zillow lead that I got in October of last year. Added him as a friend on Instagram or followed him on Instagram like 2 weeks after I met him, was sending him like real estate specific memes or reels that he would relate to. Then it kind of transitioned from that to him sending me things on Instagram DMs, asking me questions about it. And then it kind of translated to just me sending him stuff about Long Beach and him sending me random other things just that he thought was funny. And it kind of transitioned from just me being like a random real estate agent to me like being his buddy. And I got lunch with him yesterday and he's super cool. So it's about being omnipresent, just being around all of the time. All right. That's super, super important. Um, and when I do my pipeline reviews, going back a couple minutes, when I do my pipeline reviews, I always want to make sure I call it touches. I'm sending out touches. I want to make sure that I'm touching the people that are closest to transact first and often. When I go through my pipeline review, I sort my leads. If you're at the office, you can probably see the whiteboard on my desk. It's super messy, but it has names of people on there with like numbers next to them. Those are the people that I have determined are closest to transact based on whatever conversation, activity, past conversation, whatever. And they're the people that I am going to focus on touching the most and sending them texts and emails and phone calls the most. They're closest to transact. And let's say I have a random phone call, like, oh, one of the leads that Rudy gave me a couple weeks ago, he got laid off from his job. And literally 2 weeks after I met him, we already showed him some homes, randomly got laid off, and his wife does not work. So they have no income now. he hasn't responded to a single email or call that I've sent him. I've only emailed him twice and called him once in the last like 2 weeks because I know he's probably going through it mentally. I sent him my first email that said, "Hey, don't worry about the house hunt. I know based on my experience working with lenders, you have about 6 months as long as you get another job that has the same income or similar income to qualify at the same that you did before. So don't worry about it." And then I sent him another email last week that was like, "Hey, I'm just checking in. Wanted to see how you guys are doing." I didn't say the word checking in, but I said, "Hey, how are you guys doing? Are you using this as an opportunity to get a different industry or stay in the same industry?" He hasn't responded to that, but I'm not taking that, one way or the other. I'm just gonna hit him up next week with another email. So it's important that you always have a plan in place with your leads and you know who's closest to transact. So that way you can keep following up with those people the absolute most, and you can create different ways to get in front of them. Whether it's going, I love that. If you guys have been to that like Asian bistro in the Office Plaza, it's called Nomad. It's fire. I've been there a bunch with random clients and people that I haven't bought or sold a home with me. Just been there to meet with them because number one, it's close to the office. It's good food and it's like a cool place just to chat and sit because there's no loud music in the background. That's my one beef with like coffee shops. There's always like loud conversation and music. So going to this random Asian restaurant place, I can have a really good dialogue with them, and then 10 minutes later, I'm back at the office in my chair doing whatever I got to do. So make sure you're touching the people that are closest to transact, or the people that are the hottest the most, because that's where you're going to get the immediate business from after you've taken the time to nurture that relationship. And that nurturing of the relationship could be whatever you want it to be. It's different for everybody, right? Like let's talk about my buddy that's on the Kaminsky team who's prospecting. Dude doesn't make phone calls. Dude doesn't door knock. He plays golf at the country club 3 times a week, and that's how he gets his business. This guy was like a team admin for a year, then he was an agent for a year, and it didn't do amazing. Then he joined the Kaminsky Group, and now he's like closing multi-million-dollar homes by going golfing. So for him, all he's doing is golfing, catching up with people, golfing, catching up with people, exchanging information, business cards, and then going on with the rest of his day. So that's what his like nurture plan is for his leads. Is he's just like chatting with them on the golf course, following up with phone calls, whatever he's got to do. For you, whatever your prospecting plan is, whether it's going to like meetup groups or it's going to like random coffee shops and meeting people, it's about having a specific plan for those specific leads. That's the most important thing because you can't treat everybody super generically. Yeah, there are some emails that work across the board, like the new buyer email that you all should be sending out today, or the buyer workshop email that you should be sending out today. If you didn't see my video, next Thursday, the first Thursday of the month, this is going to be the first time that we've done it since April, just because of my lack of planning, no other reason. But we're going to be back on it consistently. The first Thursday of every month, 6:30 p.m. at the office is a buyer workshop where we're just going to go through like 30, 40 minutes of a deep dive into what it's like to buy a home, picking the right agent, buyer consultation, lowdown on lending from the lender. Josh is going to be there showing homes kind of thing to get people informed, not so they make a decision today or tomorrow, but just to keep them around, be omnipresent. So if you haven't sent that email yet, send an email today. It's like all of the buyers you have in your follow-up box, even the ones, Jen and Brittany, I know you're calling a lot of people right now, even the ones that you have not connected with, but you still have them in your database as buyers, send them an email that just says, "Hey, free money" in the subject line, free money, or California is giving you 20% down, like something that would grab them to read that email. And then in the body of the email, it could be super simple. It could be like, "Hey, we're having the monthly home buyer workshop at the office. We'll talk about the state of California's down payment assistance program. It's coming out in the fall. 6:30 office address. See you there." Send that email today, Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. You can send 4 emails. It's 4 touches to these people. And if they don't want the email, what are they going to do? Like unsubscribe. That's it. They're not going to call you and yell at you. It's an email, right? So number one, have that plan with those specific people. That's not generic, right? But that's tailored to those specific people. And then secondary, there are those emails that are like generic that you could be sending to everybody. Sergio, is there a sample? Yes, there is a sample of that email. I put it on Facebook last time we did it. The last workshop that we did, I believe, was the April or May one. I'm going to find that and I'll bump it to the top of the Facebook group. So if you guys want to wait until later today to send that email, I'll probably do it after the scripts class. Call it 12:30. Look in the Facebook group for it. But make sure to send that email out today, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. Do it from Follow Up Boss though, so you can track who clicks and opens the email. All right, do it from Follow Up Boss. Cool. That was everything that I had for the Jumpstarting the business portion. And then now I know Sergio asked about scripts, and Rudy asked about the prospecting. Um, does anybody have any questions about anything that I have said so far?
Super helpful so far. Thank you.
Great. You're welcome. Great. I'm glad that it's helpful. Anybody have any concerns? Anybody like, I like this, but yada, yada, yada. Cool. Great. Okay, I love it. If you think of anything or don't want to bring it up publicly, just hit me up in the Zoom chat, and I won't say your name if you have a question
And
or anything like that.
Toby, I had one comment,
Yeah.
not a question, but I love what you did with your calendar. So if you had something in your calendar that you needed to do something else with it in that time slot, this is my bad habit. Delete. No, you moved it. You kept it on the calendar so that it didn't not get done, didn't complete the task, right? I think so many of us are like, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. Guess what? They don't do it tomorrow. So kudos for that. You just moved it.
Cool. I like that. Thanks, Jeff.
You don't
Yeah,
change the goal, right? Your goal didn't change. Love it.
correct. And I like, if I'll adding to that, Jeff, Darren said it a couple weeks ago, or a couple months ago. I think it was either right as he woke up, right before he went to bed. He wrote down his I've heard it referred to as like the list of six, like the six biggest priorities for the next day. I love that. That's super cool. In fact, I have a bunch of notebooks at this desk right now for that exact purpose. Like I literally, you see, I rip out all the pages now each day. I write down like my list of the most important things that I have to do the next day. So it's called the list of six is what I refer to it as. But being able to prioritize your like events for the next day or your to-do list, because everything that you might want to do might not be in your schedule, like that random one phone call that you have to make. And the last thing about this before I talk about scripts is I use the reminders in my phone all the time. Like if I know I have to call, yesterday was a good example. I had a call with a seller lead at 3:30 p.m. I have it in my schedule and I get the reminder from Google Calendar like 30 minutes before, but I know me that my brain's like all over the place. So I put in my phone, hey, remind me at 3:29 to call Kathy Ryan. And so I get that bing on my phone like right before I got to call her. I use that so much. Like I have hundreds of reminders right now on my phone for the next couple of weeks. Cool. So scripts. Sergio, for scripts, and I'll talk to you directly here just because you asked the question. Sergio, for scripts, the way that I go about it, for the longest of times, I was going about it, and literally until like last week. And Jen, I talked to you about this too, and do not like just wipe this out of your brain from what I told you like 2 weeks ago. The way that I did it before was like all about getting through the phone call to find like the next opportunity to get to the next phone call. And I literally referred to it as, Jen, you remember? I said, churn and burn. I said, churn and burn them. Go through them. Don't do that. Don't do that. I was, thinking about it a little bit more. Had a good conversation with the coach that I'm working with, and it's about remember, what is our job? Our job is prospecting for opportunities and nurturing relationships. If you approach the prospecting, whether it's phone calls or door knocking or going to the country club or going to meetups, as like what I refer to it as churn and burn, it's not you're not gonna be able to find those opportunities in your prospecting. It's like going to be those immediate ones. Sure, you can get business that way, but it won't be like to build a long-term like scalable business or like brand. You know what I mean? So Sergio, for the scripts, my approach to scripts has changed so much in the last like 2 weeks. In fact, I'll show you the script right now that I'm using for these old like home valuation leads. And I'll go through it. I'll go through it with you guys just as an example. And a big focus that I'm working on now is the way that I was like trained through sales was like super smooth, super slick, get through it, like do your scripts, you know what to say. And as I've been making my calls, I've realized that number one, if you use a script that like everybody's used, every other realtor's used, they already know the script. The leads already know the script. This happened last year when I was making expired calls. I was using some super old script from the father son Ferry, Tom Ferry. I was using one of his old scripts, a super old script from like '06 or whatever. And the expired lead I called finished my freaking sentence for me before I said it. She finished my sentence because she'd gotten like 20 calls before me. That's the same script over and over and over again. So that's the first thing I learned. The second thing that I learned was in order to like build trust, you have to like come to this person from a place of service, right? Not like, hey, get through it and churn and burn them and get the sales calls done. So this is the script that I've been using. Sergio, since you asked, do you mind if I use you as like my prospect right now?
Okay, let's go.
Sweet. I'll only go through this first part just so you can kind of hear and listen to my tone, my cadence. Totally different than the way that I was doing scripts like 2 months ago. Hi, is this Sergio?
Yes, it's me.
Hey, Sergio, this is just Kaval over at eXp Realty. It looks like you'd requested a valuation on your home maybe like 8 or 9 months ago, and I'm just going through our records. And were you able to get that basic valuation, or what did you guys end up doing?
I sold my house.
And that's how I say that intro line. And then whatever they respond with, I have it here. But you can see I even have in here the like the dot dot dots, the ums, just so I remember to do it as I'm reading my script. So Sergio, to answer your question about scripts, I'm still kind of in this space of redoing literally all of my scripts. But this kind of gives you an idea of what I say and kind of how I say it now.
Hmm.
I think all of my old scripts still work. All the scripts that I've used, not my scripts, but the scripts that I have used still work. I just think it's more about now adding in these like dot dot dots and these ums into those same scripts, and it'll be the exact same, and it'll help open the lead up to a little bit more conversation. And one thing that Jeff said on Wednesday, because I talked to him about this briefly, something to the effect of be careful with who you build the relationship with. I even had this happen a couple days ago where it was just a random conversation, and this guy would not stop talking over the phone. And he's just like 20 minutes of him just randomly wouldn't let me speak. So I guess just be very cognizant of the person that you're talking to and the potential to like get through your script so you don't spend 20 25 minutes on somebody that's just gonna chat your ear off, not really give you any opportunity. But it's important to do these calls to kind of get the muscle memory right, so you can kind of identify those specific ones, because those are maybe like one in a 50, 1 in 75 that actually don't want to do anything in the future, where most people are going to eventually do something. Sergio, does that answer your question about scripts? Is there anything specific that you had?
Yeah, no, it's all good. I have attended some of your script discussions, which is good also. And I'm trying to build in my mind also how to go about it. And I guess each conversation is different, and we just have to have some questions. And I always remember what Susie says, and what? I always ask, and what?
Mhm.
I kind of leave it open for people to come up and give you more information as well. But thanks for that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks for asking. And then Rudy, I wrote down that you had asked about prospecting that I do. Can you specify a little bit more? What do you mean by the question?
I guess like when you are doing your prospecting day to day, like what types of lead sources are you implementing, and I guess how frequently are you hitting them? Because like an example for me is like from 8 to 10 in the morning, like I'll just call out of state probate, and then I'll work the database after that, and then probably do some more probate later in the day, and just stuff like that. So I guess how do you like approach it?
Yeah, good question. Great question. Right now, I am like hyper focused on calling through the Z buyer leads that we have, the aged home valuation people that have requested like home values. I still find that there's gold in that list. So I've been hammering that list for the last month, 2 months. And uh, I have neglected calling the really, really old buyer leads that I have not gotten a hold of just yet. When I finish this next set, I have probably 700 or 800 left of these Z buyers to call through, and then I'd have hit all of the Z buyers that we have 3 times. I will then add in the attempted contact buyers that I've reached and that I haven't reached yet, and I'll also continue to add in the Z buyers.
Okay.
I find that the time that you call is obviously important.
Mm-hmm.
2 or 3 days ago, I made phone calls from like Wednesday when I wasn't at the office. I made phone calls from like 11 or 12 to 1 or 12 to 2. And I made very few phone calls compared to what I wanted to, but that was because I spoke to a bunch of people. Like I don't know my exact answer rate because it was on follow-up boss or my conversation rate, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was like every 8 phone calls I had a conversation lasting longer than 2 minutes. Like it was nuts. And that was during the lunchtime on a Wednesday. So I think it's about getting just familiar, I guess, or used to the times to call. Because and for you, Rudy, it's different, right? Because you have the probates are probably important to hit up ASAP. But for the agents that are on here, getting used to or familiar with the times during the week that are like really, really good for potential answer rates. But it's not about not making calls at other times. It's about making calls when you can, but really hyper focusing on those potential times for like a better answer rate. Yeah.
You know, Kuval, I just want to highlight something that I heard you say that I don't hear often, but on occasion, I think we slip into realtor speak when we're speaking with a prospective buyer or seller. And words like, hi, I was going through my database, or you were an old lead that contacted us 3 years ago. We just need to remind ourselves that when we're speaking to prospective buyers and sellers, they're people, they're normal people who aren't in our industry. And we really need to like you said, Kuval, speak on their language, make it feel less scripted, and certainly not use our real estate jargon, because then it feels very salesy, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Thanks for bringing that up. That's a really good point. Yeah, I think there's a whole bunch of areas too where that could be applied, not just on the prospecting, but also like in a buyer consult, or because like home buyers don't know what this home was listed. Like they might be able to assume, but you're making them dig. Hey, this home is just put for sale. Like you might not sound super professional when you say that, but it's the way that they understand it. So speak on their terms. Yeah, great point. Great point. Rudy, did you have any other questions about the prospecting or the people that I'm reaching out to now?
No questions. That kind of pretty much answers it. Also too, I realize it's also a numbers game. I hate to put it that way, but the more, kind of like the working out, the more you do it, you're bound to lift more weights. More you do prospecting, about more leads, more appointments, more closings. That's basically like a 3-step system. So
100%, 100%, and that is facts. Cool. All right, guys. Anybody have any questions, comments, hesitations? Jen, I saw yours there. If you want to, so for that one, I'll answer that right now. How can you tell when they requested a seller's valuation? Like time frame wise, I have no idea when they exactly requested it because these leads were put into Follow Boss like 3 months ago, but I know that they're from like a long time ago, maybe even last year. I just default to like 7 or 8 months ago kind of thing.
Hey, Kuval, you asked for comments. I want to make a comment about you to the group, and I really would love others to chime in. It's no surprise to me that Kuval has been so exceptional. For reference, he was our rookie of the year last year, and this year he's at the top of the leaderboard with the highest closed sales. And to me, when I hear you lead this session, it's very clear why you've been able to deliver such strong performance. And I'd love to hear from those that are on the call. What are some things that you just heard Kuval talk about that inspired you? Like which aspects of his business and the way that he's described his lead gen and lead follow-up has stood out to you as to why he's successful? I'd love to hear from you.
Everything is intentional. Everything has a purpose. There's no stone left unturned. Nothing is done with like, oh, maybe we'll just throw spaghetti at the wall and see if it sticks. Like very intentional.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say the same too. It's very organized and everything has a place and time, and it's really good, and kind of like your OCD. It's like everything has its place, and I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for me, I'm very visual, and I like to see the examples, the calendar, the how you're using YLOCO. So that helps me quite a lot also in kind of bringing that to me, and kind of seeing how scripts also can be and should be spontaneous, should not be read, should not be something from others, but we should be adapting and getting the main line and then adapting to how we speak and how the conversation should go. We should not be a robot. Yeah.
Silka just said undeterred and tenacious. Awesome adjective.
Kuval does not operate in fear mindset. He has an abundant mindset.
Expand on that, Jeff. Why
he's always, well, look, he gets a lead. He knows that somebody, whoever that lead is, John Doe, wants to do some sort of transaction in real estate, a goal in real estate. Kuval's goal, his personal goal is to say, well, that's not just a lead, that's an actual person. I'm gonna do whatever it takes to get in touch with this person, whether it takes one attempted contact or 20. And he just stays on it until he reaches them. And then he's like, hey, what can I do to be of service? What can I do to help you? What are your needs?
Yeah, I've noticed that consistently. You talk about fear versus abundance, or fear versus faith. I think we all get in our heads when we don't hear from folks, and we pull back intentionally or unintentionally because we're fearful that we're going to piss them off, that we're being annoying, that we're not adding value. But did you guys see and experience how, like Silka said, he's just tenacious, right? It's like he's going for it. I love that. What else? Jen, what did you hear that you connected with? Because you are a phone animal right now, so I'm sure there was a lot of gold in this for you. What did you hear that really landed? Brittany, I'd love you. Well,
there were a few, I would say, definitely with the intentional, like having the numbers, like 3 meetup places, 5 real estate conversations, 6 priorities. I also think when you said always have a plan in place, that kind of made me look at all the people I have been talking to a little differently. For example, I have a client who wants to move to Texas, and then like I have how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms. But when you said like you were sending them memes, like some of your clients like real estate memes, I thought that was really like interesting, because even though this is a Texas, like he wants to move to Texas, I could still like be of value to him, maybe like sending him like Texas memes or Texas information, just to let him know like I really do care, I really did hear, and I'm really trying to help him out. Always have a plan.
even though he may not transact,
Mm-hmm.
if that high level with you, right? I mean, you may get a referral if you send him out to Texas, but
Mm-hmm.
if you deliver that level of high service, he's
Mm-hmm.
probably turned you on to a friend. And I know, Kuval, you've had business where you didn't transact with someone, but then they've referred you to people that they know because the way you've shown up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
It's all nurturing. I love that.
For me, I like the focusing on one thing. I feel like in this business, we're trying to like figure out what we can do to gain more, closings or whatever the case may be. But I think if you just take a step back and focus on one thing and just put your all into it, and be consistent with it, you could really see the fruits of your labor. So I feel like that really stood out to me. We're making these calls every day, and so I just want to continue to do that and just refine my scripting and dialogue and just keep going. So I did, that really is something that stuck out to me. And also reviewing your pipeline, which I think is super important, something we should be doing every week, but scheduling it into your calendar so you can do it, I think I'm sure is very helpful. So those are some nuggets that I really did enjoy.
Kuval, you feeling the love?
Oh yeah, big time. My head's grown like 2 or 3 inches just now.
Well, let's throw that.
Kuval, I love the fact that, not only do you have a coach in place, but you always seek like for something innovative, like you said, hey, I realized these scripts were old. So now what can I do to freshen them up, to make them new? And you seek, others, not just coaches, to kind of help you like, oh, hey, this guy's doing business out here. Let's find out what he's doing. And super awesome that you always are willing to, pour back into the team. Really appreciate that.
Most definitely.
Yeah, he's learning based and he's willing to share. So many people at the top don't want to share. And this is our culture in action. Kuval is doing that, right? It's like, it's beautiful to see that. And it's also really beautiful to see when you're at the top of your game, you're still wanting to learn. I think a lot of people, when they hit a certain level, they're like, oh, I'm good. I'm the king at this point. I don't need to learn. Kuval, we're going to throw it back to you to close this out, buddy.
Sweet. I'll show you guys this. I was thinking about this. This is kind of what the real estate business should look like for an agent. It's leads, contracts, and ops. And those are like the 3 main areas of your focus. And there's a whole bunch of like notes that I have here around it. But as long as you're focusing on like those 3 things, it's important. And the second thing that I'll say is there's not like there's those people that can like make phone calls for like 8 or 9 hours a day. That's not everybody. So don't get intimidated by like the big numbers for phone calls or anything like that. When you treat this like a business, I've learned that it'll pay like a business. If you treat it like a hobby, it'll pay like a hobby. So however you can spend those like 8 or 9 hours doing business generating activity, it will produce. It will like you will see the fruits of that labor, whether it's making calls for an hour and a half a day or hitting a certain number, and then going out to a couple coffee dates with friends and clients, kind of thing. However you can fill those dollar producing hours with dollar producing activities, you'll be solid.